All right, I got my '08 GT500 in the garage here because I've been dealing with some cooling issues. And so in this video, I'm going to diagnose the system and hopefully fix the problem. A little bit of a backstory on this engine or on this car is that it overheated on me a couple of months ago and I replaced the electric fan on it. And it seemed to work fine for, I don't know, at least 3 months or so. And now recently I just started having other heating or cooling issues, so this thing is getting hot, overheated on me. So I'm gonna do a little bit of diagnosing today and put some new parts on it and hopefully fix the problem. Okay, so I think I might have a leak in the system, and the easiest way to check for a leak in the system is with a pressure tester. This is a snap-on kit. Basically what you're gonna do is find a piece that adapts to your cooling system and connect it and then put PSI to it, probably about 14 PSI. So this is a snap-on kit. It's a little more expensive, just like anything with snap-on. But Harbor Freight has one that's fairly inexpensive. I have it. It does work. But in my experience, I feel that the snap-on one works better. Okay, so once I got the connection on there, this is a little release valve. So just gonna pump this thing up. Want to get it to about 15 PSI. Sometimes you might need to go a little higher than that. If you're having a hard time finding a leak, you can go up to like, I wouldn't exceed 20. You know what I mean? You start getting to 18 and stuff, you're putting a lot of pressure on the system. Oh, I can already see the leak. Yeah, just as I thought. Lower radiator hose. All right, so these kits come pretty handy. Once you get that all done, you can release the pressure on it and then remove it. So basically, the way the cooling system works is it uses pressure to increase the boiling temperature. So if it can't hold pressure, then it's not going to cool as efficiently. So I definitely need to replace that lower radiator hose. And I'm going to do some diagnostics with the fan too, see if that fan's coming on. So before I go and pick up some parts for this thing, I also want to check the fan. I replaced the motor, and like I said, a few months ago from a junkyard. Might have been an old fan, I don't know, maybe the fan also went bad and caused it to get a leak in there or something like that. But one of the easiest ways to check and see if your fan is functional is to start the engine up and put the AC on max AC. When you do that, the fan should kick on. So I'm going to start the car up, put it on max AC, and feel if that fan's moving. So it appears that I might be getting a battery when I go out to get parts as well, because this thing won't start. This battery has been sitting in here loose, so it doesn't surprise me if it's gone bad. They should be tied down. When it shakes around like that, they don't last very well. Yeah, I had the battery tender on this thing all night last night because I had it sitting outside. I thought it just went dead because it was sitting, but I might have a bad battery. I'm going to check voltage here. And it's 11 volts. So I think this battery is going bad. Like I said, I charged it all night last night. See if I can get it started with the jumper box. All right, I got the charger on the battery. See if this thing will start now. All right, I got a Duralast battery from AutoZone, and I got this battery hold down. So this battery looks quite a bit smaller than this one, but let's see if I can get it to work. All right, new battery's in. The hold down works pretty good. Still slides a little bit from side to side, but should start now. Okay, so now that I know that the coolant leaks and the fan's not turning on, I got the car up on jack stands, and before I start taking all this stuff off so I can get to the lower radiator hose, I'm going to drain the coolant out. All right, so I got this little access panel out of the way. It'll probably make it easier to get the lower radiator hose out. There's a couple hose clamps down here that are going to be difficult to get to. I'm just going to drain this coolant out of here. So a little tip to help it drain faster is to take the, basically open up the system. So take the fill cap off of there. So now I'm going to take this expansion tank off. All right, loosen this. This is the reservoir for the intercooler. I'm going to loosen that, hopefully not have to disconnect that whole system to get to this lower radiator hose. Let me show you what the lower radiator hose looks like. So here's the lower radiator hose. It's got, I mean, this thing, it's like an octopus. It's got hoses going everywhere. And one little crack in this thing, you got to replace the whole thing. So this is a Gates, part number 24495. I'll put the part number down below. But this is what we got to get out and replace. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and get this fan out of here. It's going to give me more room to get to the lower radiator hose, and I'm also going to probably change out the fan motor. So just, there's a connector down here, disconnect that. Sometimes I find it easier to get that connector undone once I've undone there's two 8mm bolts holding this thing in there. I'm going to undo those bolts, that way I can move the fan a little bit and then unplug it here and then lift it out. All right, now I'm going to make my way around and undo all the hoses that are connected to the lower radiator hose. I'm going to start from the top and then get underneath there. All right, quick update. I got pretty much, well, I got all the hoses on top undone. This guy down here was not very easy. He's right above the alternator. I just could not get the clamp over the top of the bulge on the hose. So I ended up cutting it off of there. Not easy at all. So I'm going to move to the bottom now. At the bottom two weren't that difficult. Let's see if this thing will come up out of here now. Alright, so here's the old and the new. This is the Gates over here. This is the one that came off of it. It looks pretty good. It looks pretty close to the same. This thing was leaking like right in this hard plastic area right here. I think it cracked it or something. Alright, I got all my hose clamps transferred from the old one to the new one. Now I'm going to snake this down in place and start getting all the hoses connected. Alright, so I got the radiator hose in there. One thing to note is these lines right here that are on the hose. There's like a white line. That's supposed to be where the clamp opening is. So like where you would grab onto it. And I try to get pretty close to that. I also like to have my clamp a little closer to the bulge to kind of help seal it. Just a couple of tips that I like to do when I'm putting these clamps on there. All right, I'm at the junkyard and I found this 08 6-cylinder and I removed the fan motor out of it. So hopefully everything works with that thing. Never know what you're going to see at the junkyard. There's a 10, it's got 4.6 in it. It's really hard for me to not want to grab this engine. Alright, so I got this motor from the junkyard and I got this little cable too. I just left it attached there so I don't have to pay extra for it. Don't tell anybody. And I also got a side marker for the Lemons car. Somebody kind of rubbed up against us the last race and ripped this thing down. So $10 for that and $30 for this motor. Hopefully this motor is good. I have used one of these motors from a 6-cylinder before, but maybe that's why it went bad again, because you know the stuff at the junkyard's got a lot of miles on it. One thing I'll say is that this little piece right here, this connection, can go bad, and one way you can tell is look up in here, and I want to say the one that's on the GT500 is a little bad. You really want to pay close attention to where the terminals go into. If you see any kind of melting or anything like that on here, then this piece, this part of the circuit could be bad. It might have a bad connection right there. All right, so here's a look at both of them. They look identical, so I'm going to go ahead and use the one off of the V6 Mustang. But here you can see on the terminals. Here you can see on the terminal, this is the one that came off the GT500, and it's got like a burn mark right there. You can see it's like melted out a little bit. So this could be part of the problem as well. So I'm going to put this one on, use this one and see. So to get these off, there's this little, it's like a little C-clip thing. You just kind of tap that thing out of there, and then the fan will come off and you can pull the motor off with 3 bolts. Now you can see the motor. Here's the one that I got from the junkyard. Well, junkyard number 2. Hopefully this thing works. A little bit different up here, but that should be okay in the fan, I think. Oh yeah, it fits in there fine. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull this motor out and put this one in. There's 3 10 mils around this thing. All right, now I'm going to put my little fan controller inside here. All right, so now I can slide this fan back into place. Okay, so there's basically 2 slots that fan slides into. It kind of sits on them, and little fingers that stick out like that, and you slide it onto there, and then make sure your 2 holes are lined up so you can get your bolts in. And then don't forget to make your connection, your electrical connection. Now I'm going to reconnect the expansion tank and the reservoir for the heat exchanger. Now I'm going to put this air box back in, reconnect the mass airflow sensor. Alright, time to add some coolant to this. And I'm going to use some distilled water. Because here in California it doesn't really get to freezing down here, and it's cheaper to fill it up with distilled water than it is with 50/50 antifreeze. So I'm going to fill this up and then start it up, maybe pressure test it, see if the fans comes on. Alright, so I got some distilled water in here. I'm going to start it up, put it on max AC and see if the fans come on, and then I'm going to leave it running for a little bit, see if I can't get the coolant circulating through there. Hopefully I can get it warmed up enough to where the thermostat opens up, and then just top it off. Also, don't forget to tighten up your drain plug on your radiator. Don't ask me how I know that. All right, so that went well. The fan was on when I turned the AC on, when I put it on max AC, so the fan's now coming on. Let it get up to temperature. I saw movement inside the expansion tank. I can feel it on the other side of the thermostat. I don't know how difficult it is to burp these systems, but since the expansion tank is a little bit below these coolant lines, I'm not sure I'm going to be make sure keeping an eye on it like tomorrow morning and stuff like that. But the last thing I want to check is the pressure test it. And so I got my thing, my tool on there. I'm going to run this thing up and see. So that's about 15 PSI. And now I'm going to check around for any leaks and see if there's anything coming out. I don't hear anything. All right, so I'm going to leave this kit on there because sometimes when you pressurize it and depressurize it, this stuff can come shooting out of there. So I'm going to wait till it cools down, and then I'm going to take this off and then get the car back on the ground. And keep an eye on this level because this system should burp itself after a certain amount of heat cycles and things like that. But I'd say the cooling issue is solved. My fan's coming on. I don't have any leaks coming out of there. So it wasn't that bad, but it's something that I hope that I don't have to do again, because that lower radiator hose on these things is not very easy to do. But thanks for watching, and make sure to like and subscribe if you want to see more Mustang content in the future.